What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fit for Life with AMB-ANJULI podcast with Ross.
Hey team.
Today we are doing this for YouTube as well as the podcast on Spotify and Apple. So if you prefer to listen on either or, make sure you give us a thumbs up if you're on YouTube and hit that follow button on Spotify and Apple. So today we are going to go through a little bit of a comp recap since Ross wasn't with me in Australia. And then we're also going to go through a whole lot of questions that came through on Instagram. So hopefully you learned something from this. And if you have any other questions, you can always send me a message on Instagram. So
yeah, totally. So take us through the weekend and through the competition weekend.
Comp this time round was very different not having Ross with me. So I ended up staying in the house with Ali and the team, which was a really cool experience. I absolutely loved getting on stage. For me, the most important thing when it comes to competing is making sure that I do everything I can to get on that stage and to make sure that I am my absolute best version of me. And it's safe to say that despite all the setbacks that I had this year, I did step on stage in the best condition of my life, and I think you have seen how much I had to overcome to get to the stage. I am really proud of myself. I believe that ANJULI 5.0 was my best version of me, and I'm so excited to continue working from here to grow. So my calories have gone straight up to over 2,000 in the week after comp, and I'm maintaining within the 2 kilo range at 2 weeks post comp. I'm feeling really good, so I am excited to make some gains. And of course, Ross and I have our wedding in 33 days, so I'm kind of focused on maintaining from here. And then after the wedding, I'm going to drive my calories up and really try and grow. But I just want to feel my absolute best in my wedding dress when I finally get one.
Cool.
I thought we would go through some questions. So you guys asked me some on Instagram, but I wanted to take Ross in on this one because I do think we both have a good input into some of these questions. How to ballpark counting your macros when you're not meal prepping?
It's really difficult, to be honest. If you're trying to ballpark it without tracking or without weighing and you haven't done it before, you're not going to be accurate. Most people will need to spend at least some time tracking and really knowing portions before being able to do that.
Definitely. So as this was regarding competing and shredding, I think it's super important to note that if you have a physique-based goal in which you want to lean down and really, get visible abs or see more muscle from losing fat and weight training, you can't expect to ballpark and get the results that you want. So often people say things like, I've been monitoring my nutrition, I'm tracking everything, but they're not weighing their food. And if you're not weighing your food, you can't expect the results that you want, because most people, and research shows this, Ross and I have read lots of studies about it, people will highly underestimate how many calories they're consuming. Even though Ross and I have been tracking for many, many years, we can still be off with our measurements. Especially for me, when I look at oats, often I will, even if I guess how many grams of oats it is, often I'll be underestimating how many grams it is, especially if it's a food that I like. Of course I want to underestimate it so I can eat more. And things like nut butters, Nutella, really delicious high calorie spreads are very hard to get accurate with. So if your goal is fat loss and you actually want to make sure you're on track, it's really important that you actually weigh your food and you track it accurately, because you're not accurate if you're not actually weighing it to track on MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, and I think it really does come back to what your goal is. If you just wanted to lose a couple of kilos, sure, making some changes here and there, reducing portion sizes and things like that, that will work, and you don't need to track that if it's just going to be if it's just a small goal, you're not really too worried about getting to X by X date type thing. But if you're really trying to lean down, if you're trying to get visible abs, if you're trying to do a competition, if you're, whatever your goal is, if it's really accurate, then you need to be accurate. There's just no way around not doing it. Like I said, if you're just trying to lose a couple of kilos or a couple of pounds and you change your habits, reduce portion sizes and stuff like that, for most people that'll work. Will you get amazing results? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree as well. Digestion while in a deficit. So I think this is a really cool question. For me personally, I always aim to hit over 20 grams of fiber per day, more so 25 to 30 grams. Of course, if you're on higher calories, it's easier to get in more fiber, but I personally try to aim for above 25 grams per day, even when in a deficit, even when shredding. For comp prep, I was still hitting over 25 grams a day.
It's really important to note that digestion in general, gut health, is a huge topic. You know, we would be here all day if we were talking about it. It's really important that if you personally suffer from gut issues or digestion issues and fiber doesn't fix it, then you might want to talk to your doctor about it, because, you know, there's bacteria that, you know, that's involved, and, you know, our stress impacts it, our sleep impacts it, artificial sweeteners and all this sort of stuff impacts it, our hydration levels, our exercise. Like, there is so many things that goes into gut health. Definitely aim for fiber first. Hopefully that fixes it for you. If it doesn't, it's really important to check in with the doctor or a dietitian to look at what's going on to help you with that if you're struggling with digestion. But for most people, you know, fiber and getting enough fruit and vegetables will be the fix for most people.
How your macros look year round. So what's your kind of situation with macros year round? How do they change, or?
It depends on goals. Like, they're never the same. At the moment, we're doing the shred for the wedding. Love being in a deficit. Protein is a bit higher than I would if I was in a build phase or a maintenance phase, because you've got those other calories that you can utilize to, you know, maintain weight. So generally, protein goes a little bit higher in deficit, and then if I'm building, obviously, a surplus, we're maintaining usually maintenance. Yep. Calories.
Yeah.
It's different year round. How about you?
Same here. So, of course, going into comp, I was shredding down. Both Ross and I wanted to shred me for comp and then us for our wedding. And then, of course, increasing calories after, you know, a shred. I'll usually either reverse diet, like smaller steps, or just jump back to my new maintenance. But it depends on my goals as well. In terms of how they look year round, I think it's actually important to note that year on year, your macros aren't always going to be the same, even if you're in a shred or a build phase. Like, where I was in 2017 when I did a build phase is very different to where I am right now. I've gone through a lot more dieting cycles. I've now done 5 competitions with the WBFF. My body, as I get older, is also, you know, changing. And it's super important to note that no shred is ever really necessarily going to be the same. My shred for this competition, like I've said in other videos in the podcast, has been very different in terms of my calories were higher, and I credit this to taking a break from being in a deficit to building more muscle so that I could have my calories higher, and to do with overall adherence to the plan that I had in place. I do think it's important to note that your macros are going to change year on year based on many different things, including your age, your height, your weight, your dieting history, your lifestyle, your stress, and things like that.
Yeah, your muscle mass, like
so important.
Your daily step count, like how sedentary you are in the day. Like, there's so many things that goes into it. Macros definitely are individual and goal dependent. They're not going to be the same for person to person. So, like, if you're looking for help with that, then it's a really good idea to reach out for help. Yeah,
definitely. And this is why I often do not post how many calories I'm eating on my full day of eating post. I don't post my macros, because you could eat the exact same things that I eat, or, you know, someone could eat the exact same things that Ross is eating, and it's not going to guarantee you results. If anything, if someone wanted to lose fat and they're eating the same calories as me at the start of my shred, they might end up gaining weight if they're less active than me, if they have less muscle mass than me, if they're older, if they're shorter. There's so many things that come into play with this. And the best thing I ever did on my fitness journey, which I've said many times before, even before I started Fit with AMB-ANJULI, is to get a coach. It takes all the guesswork out of it, and it enables you to actually get the results that you want. So that's something Ross and I have, you know, said for many times. We wish that we had started earlier with a coach and personalized plans.
Yeah, and it wasn't a thing when I was, you know, starting out. Like, there was fitness magazines and stuff like that, but there wasn't online coaches. There weren't even really like personal trainers that would do, you know, that sort of thing around nutrition coaching and stuff like that. So like, nowadays you really are in an amazing position to get amazing results faster and earlier on because of all the research, the knowledge, the plans, the coaches, all that sort of stuff that are out there now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit gutted that I'm not starting my journey now, but you know what, at least we did start when we did. But it's a classic example. Like if you look at the AMB-ANJULI Fit Squad, look at Sarah, for example, you know, she stepped on stage. I mentioned this in my last YouTube video. I shared photos of her. She stepped on stage in her first ever competition after 4 years of hard work, 2 years with me, 2 years with a comp coach, and she placed top 5 in her first ever competition. Not to mention she looked amazing and had a great prep, and we're going to have her on the podcast next week as well. So stay tuned for that because I'm very excited for that. But it's just important to note that now is an incredible time for you to be able to achieve your goals. And I know that a lot of people out there are lost on their fitness journey. And that's why I started Fit with AMB-ANJULI, because I didn't want you to make the same mistakes that I made when I started out. Next one from Sophie: what to do if we're struggling to add more weight at the gym? Ross, suggestions?
That is going to depend on your training plan. If you're doing your own training plans and you're constantly trying to push and push and push, it's likely that it's not structured properly. So you haven't structured in deload weeks, things like that. Consider your sleep. Look at sleep. Are you getting 8 hours at least of quality sleep? Is your diet okay? Around your diet, what phase of your diet are you doing? Like, are you in a shred phase? If so, you can't expect to keep getting stronger because you're not having the fuel to fuel new muscle tissue or fuel the strength. So think about that. Ideally, we get strongest in a surplus. So if you're doing a build phase, that's the best time to get stronger. Yes, you can definitely get stronger in a deficit and maintenance as well. I'm not saying that, but if you're looking to get the strongest version of yourself, surplus is definitely the best. Extra resources for fueling muscle gain. But again, coming to your training plan, if your goal is strength, is it strength focused? Because there is a difference between strength and hypertrophy focused. So if you really want to get strong, is your plan optimized for strength? If it's not, then you obviously want to have a plan that is optimized to strength. But why do you want to get stronger? Is your goal to gain muscle? If it's to gain muscle, then you shouldn't be as worried about that, because hypertrophy is about getting enough volume, so increasing the amount of work that your body does. Sometimes increasing in weight, yes, that is part of that, but it's not the only part of it. Like, it could be increasing volume, so maybe you stick to the same weight that you're using, but you added in another set, so all of a sudden you've increased the total amount of work that your body's doing. So that's something to think about as well. There's so many different reasons, and again, I would come back to the idea of getting a coach or getting a properly structured plan, because your plan should have deloads included. It should have ramped up RPE or repetitions in reserve, intensity over time, sort of get to that peak where you would then taper off again to lighter loads and things like that, varying repetition ranges and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes into play, and it depends on who's asking that question and what their issue is. Is it the nutrition? Is it the plan? Is it the sleep? Is it that you're not taking deload weeks where you'll do 50% of the weight that you normally would?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something you would talk one-on-one with your coach about. But like Ross said, I think one of the main things there to pick up on is why do you actually want to get stronger? Like, there is a difference between hypertrophy and strength training. And even in a deficit, I was getting stronger leading up to the show, but eventually you reach a point at which you're just not going to be able to increase the weight that you're lifting in a deficit naturally, especially as you get more tired, more hungry and things like that. And also you have to know, how many years have you been training for? Because if you are new to working out, you're going to find that your strength is just going up and up from week to week. But once you've been training for a few years and you're reaching that kind of peak of your lifts, like for example for me with lateral raises, for me with squats, my deadlifts, it's not significantly going to increase. And you also have to note that your upper body most likely is not going to increase as incrementally as your lower body is, considering our lower body, like our glutes, are our largest muscle versus something like my shoulders, which just aren't going to increase by massive amounts from week to week.
Yeah, totally. And it depends on the exercise. I didn't mention that, but it does depend on what exercise you're doing, because if it's like a deadlift or a squat, then technique adjustment perhaps could help you with that strength gain. So for some people, some slight technique adjustments with their deadlift, for example, might mean that they can lift an extra 10 to 15 kilos just because of torque angles and things like that. If it's you listening to this video and you're not sure, then I'd suggest getting a coach, because they'll be able to guide you as to what area is letting you down.
Tips on how to recover and refocus from breaks after holidays and celebrations, especially after eating and drinking. Well, we just had Easter on Sunday, and Ross and I'm going to pop up a photo. Ross and I love Easter. We love chocolate. We definitely indulged. How did you get back on track after that?
I think the first thing to think about is remembering that these celebrations are just one day. So we always plan ahead for them, make sure we're on track fully with our nutrition leading into Sunday, for the day we spend eating chocolate and stuff like that. And then we make sure we just get on track the next day. So we plan for it. So planning is really important, and remembering that it's one day. When we let Christmas or Easter turn into a week or a month, that's when it becomes a problem. One day is not an issue. Enjoy your birthdays, enjoy Christmas, get back on track the next day, plan for it, plan ahead.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to consistency. It's what we do consistently over time that matters, not what we do every once in a while. But like Ross said, when it comes to Christmas or something like Easter, for example, that could easily be turned into a 3-day chocolate fest of hot cross buns, chocolate every meal, all day. But we're very specific about our Easter. We have it to one day. It's Easter Sunday. We watched movies, we ate, we relaxed, we enjoyed, we did not care. And then we got back on track straight away the next day, which was awesome. And when it comes to alcohol, like we've said before in other podcasts, I'm not a big drinker, but after the show on Sunday, I did go out and I had a couple of glasses of bubbles. I also had some shots, which was shown in my video. And what did I do the next day? Nothing crazy. I didn't slash my calories. I just got on track with my reverse diet plan, which was just jumping up to my new maintenance of 2,000 calories. So in terms of planning for events, earlier in the week, we might cut our calories a little bit lower if we are looking to shred fat, or if we're just looking to maintain so that we don't, go over what our weekly caloric intake goal is. And then other things we might do might include things like, focusing on protein. On Easter, we made sure that we still hit our protein intake, we hit our fiber. Yes, we enjoyed most of our carbs and our fats from chocolate, but I guess we didn't go crazy with everything else. Like, we got to the end of the day on Easter and we did really want some pizza, and we thought about ordering pizza and garlic bread, but the logical side in us thought, what? Let's not go over the top. Let's end it on a high, have some chocolate, enjoy that, and we can get pizza another day. So it's about really spacing out the things that you want to enjoy over time and not thinking that, it's one day where I'm going to go absolutely crazy. I'm never going to be able to eat chocolate or pizza again, and let that kind of blow our calorie budget out for the whole week.
Yeah, and the other thing is, don't be all or nothing. Like, if your nutrition's off track, still do your workouts, still do your steps, still drink your water, still get your sleep, that sort of stuff. Like, you can still be semi on track, you can still do stuff.
Yeah.
It's when we just let everything go, that's when it can become a bit of a problem. So keep up with the steps, stay active, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And we did do that. We started the day with a workout, which is awesome. So what's in mental health? So I think this is just a massive topic. I mean, we could talk all day about it, especially Ross, because you do a lot in the mental health space for work. But in relation to competing, I think I would like to touch on that a little bit in terms of, I think that health and fitness go hand in hand with mental health. My mental health feels best when I'm eating right, when I'm moving my body, and when I'm taking care of myself from the inside out, because I know that nutrition has a big role in our overall gut health, our mental well-being, and just how I feel. So I have worked with a therapist on my mental health. I'm not shy about talking about that, and it's safe to say that this year has been the best mental health year I have had in years. We've had a lot of changes. I've gone through comp prep. I haven't seen a therapist since the lockdowns, I think, and I just feel really good overall. And I truly think that's from prioritizing things like gratitude daily, reading and working on self-development, nourishing my body with good foods, working out daily, and really just taking care of myself. And being in a new environment, being our dream house, has also been very good for me. But is there any tips for mental health and well-being?
Yeah, the first thing I would say that if you're someone who's struggling with mental health, that you should reach out to your doctor and have a bit of a chat to them to start off with. That's always a great first point of call. Chat to your GP Hopefully you've got a really good GP who will listen to you. And then think about resources that are around you. There's lots of great resources that you can access. Like here in New Zealand, for example, there's the Mental Health Foundation. They have a lot of awesome tools, including, wellbeing models that can really help you, like the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, for example, which are a research-based set of tools developed in the UK that you can lean on to help improve your overall wellbeing. So about meeting everybody where they are and trying to bring everyone up the mental wellbeing continuum. So that's things like connecting with your friends and family. Perhaps that might be connecting with a therapist to chat about some things that you're going through. Maybe that's connecting with yourself a bit more by taking time to be more mindful. One of the ways to wellbeing is being active like in general, whether that's a walk, a workout, anything. Even if you don't feel like doing it, it's going to be beneficial to your mental well-being because it has a really significant link to improving how we feel. Giving back to our communities, whether that's volunteering, things like that, makes us feel really good, and that's another pillar of the 5 Ways to Wellbeing. Keeping our mind active around that learning piece, which is another pillar to keep learning. And you just overall try and take notice, which is another one, to take notice of yourself. Remember the little things that make you happy. But again, reach out to your GP. Look at all the resources that are available. There's lots of amazing free helplines, especially here in New Zealand. I'm sure there is a lot of great free helplines out there that you can call, but doctor's a great place to start.
Definitely, and that's what I did. I went to the doctor, I spoke to Ross, and they put me in contact with a therapist. And to be honest, it might take you a couple of therapists to get the right one, but don't give up. Find the right one, and when you do, I just think it helped me a lot. So I'm really grateful that I did that, and the reason why I don't mind talking about that is so that hopefully it helps someone out there that needs it to realize it's okay to reach out for help and to admit that you're struggling. Last question, and that is, do you ever still have moments of feeling insecure? I'm gonna ask Ross this because I feel like guys have a different mentality around this. Do you ever feel insecure?
Not anymore. I feel like that's an age thing. I really just don't care what other people think anymore. So when I was younger, definitely, but I think once you get a bit older, you just don't care anymore.
Yeah, awesome. So I do not care what other people think, and I think I lost that ages ago, to be honest. I feel like being on social media, you have to gain a thick skin. Otherwise, I would have quit on social media. Like the amount of negative things, not that I get a lot, but the amount of negative comments I have read on articles about me, viral photos about me, if I let that get to me, I would be an absolute mess right now, and I would have left social media ages ago. However, I think we can be our harshest critics, and Ross will know that, it's hard to put yourself out there online every day. It's hard to get on stage in front of over 1,000 people, lined up against other beautiful women, and not have some kind of criticism creep in there. So yes, there's been times at which I am very harsh on myself and I can be really critical, but in time I have learned that at the end of the day, if you're comparing yourself to anyone else, you're never going to feel satisfied or content with where you are, whether that's comparing how your body looks, how much money someone has, what clothes they wear, the house they live in. If you're consistently comparing yourself to anyone else, it's going to rob you of all the joy that you have. And also, I'm super aware of the things that I say to myself when I look in the mirror or when I put on a bikini and things like that. I don't want to get to being 60, 70 or 80 years old and look back on my life as a younger woman, under 30, thinking all the negative thoughts that I had of myself, because I'm sure one day I'm going to look back and be like, man, I looked amazing. So for me, it's really important to just look at the overall picture of things and know that, each day I'm taking care of myself. Each day I'm moving my body, I'm eating foods that make me feel really good. And I just focus on how I feel versus, how I look. If we only focus on how we look externally, I just think that you're missing the whole part of life, and that is, how you feel, getting stronger in the gym, learning more by the books that I read, and being a good fiance and being a good coach to the AMB-ANJULI Fit Squad are things that really fill my cup, and they matter more to me than how I look externally. So there was one part of me thinking that maybe people will be let down by me if I don't place, first, second or third in my WBFF competition. But then when I look at the bigger picture, I'm like, you know what? It's actually inspiring to see someone keep going and never quitting on themselves. And I think that is an inspiration in itself. So more so than how I look is my attitude towards my body, my attitude towards my fitness journey and never quitting. I think that that in itself is an inspiration. And I also think that it's super important to realize that you're so much more than how you look externally. Like your parents, your partner, your good friends, they don't actually care what you look like from the outside. Like Ross met me when I was like, 8+ kilos heavier than I am now, and the love is still the same, I would hope. So yeah, I think for anyone out there that is feeling really insecure, I suggest that if you are struggling, again, it comes down to speaking to someone, also acknowledging the thoughts that you're having, let them be passing thoughts and focus on all the positives about yourself. To anyone out there that is struggling with feeling insecure about your body, reach out for help and just realize that you are so much more than how you look on the outside. Just be a good person. Anything you have to say about anything in general? Are you excited for the wedding?
Definitely excited for the wedding. Thanks for the great questions, everyone. Keep them coming. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love doing these chit chats. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something from this, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you in the next one.